The Trump administration must end the war on Chicago. The Trump administration must end this war against Americans. The Trump administration must end its attempt to dismantle our democracy. Right as we are making historic progress in reducing violence, the Trump administration is seeking to destabilize our city and provoke chaos. We said that they would use ICE as a pretext to send in the National Guard. And now they are doing just that. I've also said for the last couple of years that the extreme right in this country refused to accept the results of the Civil War. They have repeatedly called for a rematch. But in the coming weeks, we will use this opportunity to build greater resistance. Chicagoans are clear. Militarizing our troops in our city as justification to further escalate a war in Chicago will not be tolerated. The past teaches us that just because we are on the right side of history, that doesn't mean that we will succeed. It's going to take courage and determination, bravery, unity. But one thing that I know for sure in this great nation, this moment that we are in, Chicago was built for this moment. Immigrants from around the world, descendants of slaves, have come to this city to make it the global capital of the world. And now we stand at a moment that is testing our very humanity, and the city of Chicago will stand the test of time. The Trump administration.
This is the book of 2 Ezra 15:1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. First and foremost, before I get started, I want to thank Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakah Kadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS who teach and rule well, who taught me this truth. Salutation, brothers and sisters that are out there listening and learning, fighting this good fight of faith. And salutation to my fellow brethren that are pushing this word in all truth and sincerity. To you all, I want to say shalom. And open prayer, this quick lesson be edifying to the elect. So we see where this is going. And, it's beautiful because we were actually speaking about this at camp on Sunday. We mentioned this about the raid that happened in Chicago, as we're speaking about here, from those, ICE agents and different federal agencies and what have you, that were pretty much using, this Venezuelan gang talking point, to justify them going in and terrorizing, those jakes over there, man. In the same way they use the immigration, talking point, to terrorize the Northern Kingdom. So they're coming after the tribes, man. So we are indeed in Jacob's trouble, man. We're in the beginning phases of Jacob's trouble, and it's only going to get worse, man. And one of the points that brothers was making is we were speaking about civil war and racial wars, man. And here we go, you seen in the opening clip, we're headed there, man. Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi are men that they cannot lie. Their words are indeed faithful and true. So let's read some of this article, get a couple of scriptures, and that'll be the lesson. So this is posted today, October 7th, and it reads: Chicago mayor warns violent racial civil war is coming to America. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson warned on Monday that a violent race-based civil war is coming to America. And that's basically the video we just watched. It says, asked by reporters on Monday about the ongoing legal battle over Trump attempting to send National Guard troops from other states to Chicago and Oregon, Johnson warned a couple of years ago, I said very candidly that the right wing in this country, wants a rematch of the Civil War. I want that to sit in right now, because the President of the United States has declared war on the people of Chicago and the people across America. Infowars.com reports continuing the mayor absurdly claims the America First president is more concerned with giving other countries billions of dollars, while farmers in urban cities around this country are literally being destabilized. So everything that is being, just this little bit that we read right here, you could see this right left paradigm that's happening, and Yahawashi himself spoke about, a kingdom divided against itself shall not stand, man. So we're seeing the complete fall of our enemies, man, and of Babylon the Great. And all praise to Yahawashi for that, man. Says Mayor Johnson next bizarrely defended locals in Chicago who are volunteering to make sure we're protecting children from being from their families, saying they're literally putting themselves at risk of being shot and killed, deleted by the government. It's unclear who Johnson was referring to, but it could have been the radical leftist woman who was shot over the weekend after ramming into a border patrol vehicle while armed with a rifle. As Democrats allege POTUS wants a civil war, they are actively trying to foment that exact scenario in order to claim they were correct in predicting he's a dictator when he finally cracks down on their insurrection. So, I mean, hey, here you go, man. This place is ready to be out of here, man. All praise the Yahawashi. Let's go back to 2nd Ezra 15. And let's see, let's go down. Let's see, here we go. So let's start at 14. 2nd Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be, and sword, the modern day sword is the gun, man, but it could be a literal sword, but the point is that they're going to be, the people of Babylon, spiritual Egypt, are going to be fighting against each other, and we see that, as the scriptures say, the love of many shall wax cold. And we see that, for right at the forefront. You can see that all day. All you got to do is go outside and see how people treat each other. It's not a mystery. 15. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, right? So let's get that definition for any new brothers and sisters that might, come across this video. It's all about edifying, which edifying means to build up. To edify means to build up. So sedition means conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. And we see that all the time. We see people constantly speaking out against the evils that the government is doing against the people, man. It says, 17th verse, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, right? So this is talking about martial law, checkpoints. They have these troops all over. That's what the mayor of Chicago is trying to keep from happening, but it obviously is still happening in the city with all these troops, and they're preventing, they could prevent people from going from place to place. And as if you know about how the FEMA zones in America, there's 10 FEMA zones that break up the country in 10 parts. And the scriptures speak about that. It talks about the 10th part of the city, So when things really start to escalate, when they continue to get worse and worse, they could start shutting down cities, states, in these different FEMA zones, and they have troops, sitting at the borders of these zones, and you won't be able to come or go unless you have whatever requirements that they require you to have, man. That's the time that we're coming into, man. And they show that all the time on these movies and these different video games constantly. Where shit just gets locked down. You got to get rations. You can't see certain people because they're in other zones and different things of that nature. That's what these devils are doing, man. That's exactly what's happening. It says, 18th verse, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, right? So that's what this whole Civil War thing, right? They push this, Simpsons, Homer and Ned Flanders, fucking dynamic, love your neighbor and everything and all this bullshit. But the scriptures say right here, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation. So that's the times that we're coming into, man. A time of great trouble such as never been since there was a nation, as it says in Daniel 12:1. Isaiah 19:2. And I will set the Egyptians, right? This is spiritual Sodom and Egypt, right? America. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, man. And that's the time that we're coming into. 2 Ezra 6:22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. So society being sown, everything's, working according to plan, right? Going, the way it's been going. People get up, they go to work, their electricity is on, their water is on, the heat, the AC, everything's working, the street lights are on, people are abiding by the law, the traffic lights are on. So everything's sown, everything's put together, everything is copacetic, so to speak. It says, suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. So unsown is the complete opposite of everything I just said. The street lights aren't working. The people are not abiding by the law. Shit, the police aren't even showing up to work. The World War Z scenario. People aren't going by, not stealing and things of that nature. They're just going back to, survival mode. If you see that movie, the opening clip, one of the clips at the beginning, when the shit started happening, everybody started running into the supermarket, grabbing whatever they can. And Brad Pitt was in there. He had his rifle, and he seen a Jake cop running towards him, and he put his hands up, and the Jake cop wasn't even worried about it. He went to go grab some baby food for his baby. That's the times that we're coming into, man. That's the time that we're coming into. It says the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty, and that's exactly what was happening in that scene. Everybody was just grabbing everything in sight. grabbing whatever they can, you know, to survive, you know, the coming disaster that was headed their way. And it says, and the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. Right? And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. Let me read that again. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. Whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. Right? So the ones that endure to the end are the ones that will be saved, man. That will receive salvation. The elect of the nation of Israel. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, and our fellow brethren that were scattered amongst the heathen nations. You know? And I'll end off on this. This is Mark 3 in the NLT. And 23, it says, Yahawashi called them over and responded with an illustration, Salakia, illustration. How can Satan cast out Satan, he asked. A kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. Right? 24 again. A kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. And that's exactly what is coming. You know, racial wars, civil war, they're putting it out in these different movies and everything. This kingdom is divided. A kingdom divided against itself shall not stand, as it says in the book of Matthew, in the KJV, what Yahawashi said. It says, 25, similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. And if Satan is divided and fights against himself, how can he stand? He would never survive. And that's what's coming, man. These devils are through. America's through. Babylon's through. You Edomites are through. You 2/3 are through. This whole hell that of Esau's rule, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, it's all finished. It's coming to an end. And all praises to Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi for that, man. You know, civil war is coming. Everything that's been written in the scriptures of the downfall of these devils is coming to pass, and gonna continue to come to pass as we witness the downfall of our enemies, man. Call Halal Yamla Abanawa Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi Bahasham Rakakadash. BABYL0NS, the apostles and the elders of GMS who teach and rule well, who taught us the truth. Salutations, you brothers and sisters that are out there listening and learning. Fighting this good fight of faith. Keep fighting, keep striving, keep pushing. We're almost out of this bitch. Salutations to my fellow brethren that are pushing this word in all truth and sincerity. To you all, I want to say shalom, ababa ball, and kwam yasharala. Hey, shalom. To the next one.